Hi, guys. Welcome to Latest with Lily, my show where I talk about all things sports, but with an emphasis on football, baseball, and a little bit of hockey. I start by talking a little bit, then I bring on my very special guest, talk a bit more, and then it's time for everyone's favorite segment, Last Minute with Lily, where I list as many fun sports tidbits of the week as I can in just 60 seconds. But this is not just any episode of Latest with Lily. This is a very special one because it is our season finale. Woo! Woo! Yeah. That is a little misleading because we're going to be back in January, don't worry, but this will be our final show of 2022. So that's kind of sad, but mostly exciting. This weekend, I put up a poll on my Instagram story asking who you guys thought was the best guest so far, and the results are in, and I don't think you want to miss the big reveal. So stay tuned to see who it is. Okay, let's get right into it. I want to start the show off on a pretty sad note, but it doesn't feel right not to mention this as a football fan, but more importantly, as a Steelers fan. Hall of Fame running back Franco Harris died yesterday at 72 years old. Harris played for the Steelers for 11 years, from 1972 to 1983, and he is the man behind the single best play in NFL history, the Immaculate Reception. Franco won 4 Super Bowls with the Steelers during the dynasty of the 70s, and he rushed for 12,120 yards in his tenure with the team. Though Harris's on-the-field accolades were superb, many Pittsburgh fans hold his work off the field in an equally high regard. Nicknamed Mr. Pittsburgh, Harris was chairman of the board of Pittsburgh Promise, a scholarship open to all public school students in Pittsburgh, and did work for several Pittsburgh charities. He died just days before the Christmas Eve game between the Steelers and the Raiders, the same matchup in which the Immaculate Reception occurred, the day that the Steelers were planning to retire his jersey. There are no words that can truly capture what Franco Harris meant to the city of Pittsburgh and the football world in general. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the Super Bowls and all the other memories. Thank you. So it's pretty sad. I do have an audience right now, if you guys couldn't tell from the clapping. So, all right, I'm sorry to start that show off on a really sad note. I know I don't normally venture into serious or sad territory, but I felt like, it was just wrong not to. So let's move on from all the sad stuff. I think after that, we really do need a boost of happiness. So it's time to reveal our very special guest. The winner of the Best Guest competition is actually 2 winners. Yep, you guessed it. Rahul and Zach. Woo!
Did you guys guess it? You guessed it.
We're so happy to be here.
So happy to be back. I had such a fun time last time. I had to run it back. Spin the block, All right.
I'm so glad you guys are on the show right now. I really did have a lot of fun doing it with you guys the first time. I might have said it was the most fun I had with guests, but I don't want to insult my other guests. But I'm so glad you guys won the poll. It was very close, just so you know, but you did come up on top. I'm so glad you guys are here. But you know what? Let's just get down to business. Let's talk about the Giants, okay? The New York Giants.
Sorry.
Please, let's try to stay serious. Okay, the Giants can clinch a playoff spot this week, which sounds very weird to say, but yes, it is true. If the Giants beat the Vikings, and out of the Commanders, Lions, and Seahawks, I think 2 of them lose, the Giants are in the playoffs. If the Giants lose, but they get the necessary help from 2 of those teams, then it becomes a win and in situation with the game next week against the Colts, which is super exciting. But I want to know, guys, especially Zach, because I know you're a Giants fan. I want to know, first of all, if you think the Giants are going to make the playoffs, which pretty much seems like a lock, but with the Giants, they could always fumble it. But if they do make the playoffs, how far do you guys think they're going to go?
First of all, I want to thank you for that heartwarming speech about Franco Harris. I know I was really sad to hear about it, and he was an amazing man. Second of all, I do think that the Giants are going to make the playoffs this season. They're given a 90% chance to make it by most leading
That's not true.
predictors.
That's
It's about 90. It's like 86, 80.
Sorry.
That's actually really high. I would not give them that high.
But I think they're actually
It's
only
mathematical.
3-point underdog against the Vikings this week. I think it's a very winnable match. Colts game is also very winnable. So I think they're in a great position. And I think that, behind the just coaching,
So hold
out
on.
there
You think they're
pissed.
going to beat the Vikings?
Yes, I think they'll beat the Vikings.
Oh my god.
That's an
Giants.
interesting take.
Who of the next 3 games are they going to win?
They're gonna win.
Vikings, Colts, Eagles,
They only need to win one to make the playoffs, probably.
and
Yeah, but you
you
need
think they're beating the Colts?
Yes.
Maybe
Easily.
if they sit Matt Ryan again.
they are
maybe.
sitting Matt Ryan.
No, but in week 17, are they
So
going to?
actually,
True.
as it's turned out, recent important news in the football world suggests that Nick Foles will now be the starter in that game for
That's
the rest
somehow
of the
worse.
season. So Nick Foles, he's got a history of success. He's done it before, but I don't think he'll be able to do it against the Giants just because he only plays well under pressure, and it won't be a high pressure situation.
No, he also just sucks. Like it's not.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Nick
I mean,
Foles isn't good.
they're literally valuing him less than they value Sam Ellinger. So, I mean,
Yeah.
and the Colts suck as a franchise. They were up 33 points and they still lost. You can't expect them to win. But I just don't. Even if the Giants do make the playoffs because the Redskins don't cause it. I mean, sorry. I'm sorry.
The Washington Commanders actually.
I'm sorry, the Washington Commanders, because they're not able to do anything. Even then, the Giants still are a poverty franchise, and if they do get into the playoffs, they're losing first round. The Eagles would smack them around.
I'm tired of
team,
hearing you make bad takes.
any
I'm
team.
tired of
They're
it.
just not. I mean,
I'm tired
maybe,
of hearing you say things
know what?
that
Okay,
aren't
okay,
true.
and guys get a word in. Before in the past, you guys were able to.
I just muted you guys. All right, so now that we finally have some peace and quiet, I would like to politely request from my guests that we have a little bit of order when we're talking, maybe one at a time, or try to limit the interjecting. I feel like that would be beneficial for our viewers and for the show as a whole. But I would like to respond to some of your takes. I do agree with Rahul. I think that if the Giants make the playoffs, which it looks like they will, they are going to get slapped around by their first round matchup. The Giants' record is way better than that team actually is. Did you unmute yourself?
Yeah.
I just want to dig into what you just said there.
Okay.
What do you mean by that?
How is that digging into it?
I just want you to say it again because I didn't quite catch it.
That's fine. I'm gonna mute you so that you can hear me. Okay. So my take is that the Giants are going to make the playoffs. It seems like in all likelihood they're going to win one of their next 2 games, and they're probably going to get the needed help from either the Lions, Commanders, or Seahawks. But what I don't think this is necessarily a win for the Giants, because although they started off strong, especially with their record, I think it's been proven time and time again that their record was misleading. And they mostly won games because of coaching and just, I hate to say it, but luck. I mean, yes, Daniel Jones was turning the ball over much less at the beginning of the season, but that has honestly kind of changed a bit. And I think that in general, Saquon's production, although he's still a great player, it's been going down a bit. And, the magic that was there at the beginning of the season that seemed like, wow, the Giants really turned it all around in one season just isn't there. And I have to say, you might want to take a second and think, okay, do we really want to see the Giants get embarrassed in the first round of the playoffs? Or do we want to, I'm not going to suggest that they tank the last 2 games to get a slightly better playoff spot, but I think that, make it, don't make it, it's not going to matter for the Giants. They're not going to do anything in this round of the playoffs. Maybe next year, but not this year. All right, I'll unmute you guys now.
All right. So first of all, I don't think that's like a feasible option. The Giants are obviously not going to tank the next 2.
I know. That was pretty facetious.
Okay. At the same time, the Giants. What? Can we please have some quiet in the audience? I was gonna say that you have teams like the Lions and the Jaguars who are easily better than the Giants right now.
Okay.
The Giants just don't have any weapons right now. No, and hold on, let me finish. And even if they were to make the playoffs, this is the point I was trying to make. In the 2010s with Eli Manning and Victor Cruz, if they were to make the playoffs, and they were never the top seed in the NFC. If they were, they still had that wow factor, they could make something happen.
That wow factor?
You're saying that the suck.
I just want to say a couple things. First of all, even if you assume that they're going to be an underdogs in the playoffs, which they will be, they're an underdogs, and maybe you give them a 30% chance to win. Maybe you give them a 40%
Against who are you giving them a 30% chance?
I think that they have a 30% chance against
guys,
any team in the NFC.
The fact, I just want to mute you for 1 second while I say this. I think so. I think that the problem that you're really not thinking about, Zach, is that the Giants are going to be playing a good team. If they're going to make the playoffs as a low seed, which means they're going to play a higher seed. Therefore, it's just going to end up worse for the Giants. All right, I'll unmute you now.
I think generally you can't. You should never write someone off. I think we've learned that from Geno Smith. But in general, the Giants are not going to do anything if they make the playoffs. I mean, they're
Okay, I think I think this session has devolved into a little bit of just yelling at each other. But
I agree
wanna
with
make
you,
a
Zach. I
serious
agree.
comment. I want to make a serious comment in that
Okay.
even the NFL is just a pretty random game. As you've seen, you can be in a game and with turnovers, with a little bit of luck, and turnovers can be pretty random. Fumbles are really random. A game can be flipped on its head. That's what the Giants have done a great job of all season. So, and also, are you really scared of, the 49ers? Their quarterback is Brock Purdy. Are you really scared
I'm
of
scared.
the
Good
Minnesota
point. Good
Vikings?
point.
I'm
Are you really
terrified
scared of the Minnesota Vikings. They've won 10 games by one score. They're only
You're scared of the
favorites.
Are you actually scared of the Vikings?
They're 3-point.
Their quarterback is Kirk Cousins. He's never gonna be elite.
I mean, it's not like it's prime time Kirk. You realize that? I mean, Kirk Cousins, even starting down 33-0, he put up like 450 yards, 3 touchdowns. Like, I mean, it's not like you can.
But clearly
Kirk Cousins-
the bookmakers are not scared of the Vikings because they're only 3-point favorites, and that could be a first-round matchup. The Vikings are 3-point favorites at home.
Okay,
that could easily be a matchup. 3-point favorites.
I mean, it's not like it's going to be at home in the play. I mean, it's not going to be in New York in the playoffs anyway.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to be the same matchup. Could be Vikings versus Giants.
Okay.
This week, the Vikings are 3-point favorites.
I'm going to leave it at this.
Favorites, but.
No. Okay. All right. Well, next topic.
All right. You know what?
Please.
I think we've exhausted this enough. And yeah, it did. I think Zach is right. It did devolve a bit into yelling, but I think we got some valid points across, honestly. We talked a little bit about everything, so it's okay. I knew this going into it that we'd have some kind of banter, but I think it was positive. All right, let's move on to something that can't, get into too much of an argument about. Stardom Siddums. Who doesn't like Stardom Siddums? There's not much to disagree about with Stardom Siddums. It's the perfect thing. All right, so you guys know I like fantasy football a lot. Unfortunately, I'm terrible at it. So I'd like to bring in an expert, Zach Mizell, on fantasy football, and then a not so expert, Rahul, on football. They both like it a lot, but Rahul has demonstrated that he is pretty amateur at it, though he has put some hard work into these takes today. I know he's really put a lot of research, time, and effort into selecting these 2 players. So I'd like to start with Rahul. Why don't you give us your first fantasy football start?
I actually really don't appreciate those shots at my fantasy football skills. And I will say that, I mean, I'm just not very invested in fantasy football, and I never have been the whole year.
You're getting muted for that.
Why are you muting me? I really just care about the actual sport. I mean, I love football, but let's just be real, like fantasy football, it doesn't matter. Anyways, so my stardom for this week, I feel like it's fairly obvious. We should all be thinking the same thing. It's Trevor Lawrence. He leads the league in passer rating. He leads the league in completion percentage. He leads the league in since week 9. Since week 9.
Since week 9 is the keyword.
Keep going.
It's literally been 5 weeks since then, so it's not like it's just like a fluke. I mean, you guys were ready to write him off. No, actually, we haven't played the 6th week, so it's just 5 weeks.
We have played it. This is week 16 coming up.
And that's on me. My point is, leads the league in completion percentage, leads the league in passer rating, leads the league in touchdown to interception. He's just an overall stud. There's no denying it. I mean, everything that we saw in college, it's coming out. It's blossoming in the 2nd year. I mean, he's really just a stud. My Siddum, I was actually looking at the NFL fantasy stardom Siddums, and they have him as a stardom.
So
which
you
I'm really
cheated?
confused about. No. I just wanted to see what they were saying, and they actually had the opposite opinion from me, which is interesting. They say that David Montgomery's been playing really well, and you should start him. Makes no sense. I'm smarter than every analyst on the NFL broadcasting team, so I'm just gonna say it. David Montgomery's trash, and I'm not just saying this because I traded him away and then I lost my fantasy season. It actually has to do more with the fact that Khalil Herbert is back. Justin Fields is fully healthy, and he scores 1 rushing touchdown of over 90 yards every game. And when you have someone who does that, your RPO is, I mean, like your run pass options and your like QB draws, they're less effective because everyone knows you're just going to keep it. I guess they're more effective. But my point is David Montgomery sucks, and Khalil Herbert's back, and He's not going to put up more than 10 points this week.
I think you've got some very valid
And
points.
and he plays the Bills.
I think you've got some very valid points there, which just prove how respected you should be as a commentator in general.
I
And
appreciate that.
I think that you
I
deserve.
appreciate that.
I think that you don't deserve people cutting into you in the middle of your comments. I think
I
that
appreciate
respect is a very important commodity, and in our modern, it's often, we often don't see it so much. So that brings me right into my stardom sit-em, and we're going to talk about a guy who hasn't been respected that much throughout his career, despite winning the Heisman Trophy. So if you can guess, it's my stardom for this week. It's going to be DeVonta Smith. There's a lot of worries about DeVonta Smith out there. His quarterback just got hurt. Jalen Hurts could be out for the near future.
He's your stardom?
Gardner Minshew is coming in, but Gardner Minshew is, a very talented passer. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch how he plays with them. And I think that A.J. Brown as well I don't think he's going to drop off as much as people predicted, but I think you're starting A.J. Brown. But DeVonta Smith, you might be thinking about, but I think he is a great starter for this week.
Can you explain why? You literally didn't explain why. You just explained why you would sit him, and then you were like, "Oh no."
That's actually a good point. I don't understand why when your star quarterback is out, you decide to sit that team's. You decide to start that team's receiver.
Have you seen DeVonta Smith?
Oh, I'm sorry. I muted you really quickly. What did you say?
DeVonta Smith's recent performances have been superb. They've been excellent. They've been spectacular. They've been, just really good.
No, I agree, but I'm just saying that
games, he has had 8 targets in each one of those. Tennessee, 5 receptions for 102 yards and touchdown.
And keep in mind, in all those games, the Eagles put up 45. So,
and what makes you think they're not going to put up 45? It's going to be a high-scoring game.
It's against Dallas.
High-scoring.
It's against Dallas, and also Gardner Minshew is throwing the ball. I mean, okay. I see how.
That makes
I
no
think this
sense.
brings me back to the idea of respect, and I want to just spell the word respect for everyone. It's RESPECT. And that's a lot of letters. What else has a lot? The number of points that the Eagles are going to score on the Cowboys.
I'm not following your logic here, Lily. Let me just get something in. I don't understand why, if the Eagles' starting quarterback is not playing, who they've been performing really well with,
I agree.
And Dallas, who's been rated as the #1 defense.
Wait, I think I may be able to justify this. Okay. This is a bit of a stretch. I don't see eye to eye with Zach on this. But you could say that since Jalen Hurts is such a run-heavy quarterback, and when he's playing, the offense is like super run-heavy, maybe if he's out, Gardner Minshew is more of a pocket passer. So slightly more of a pocket passer. So you could say that his wide receivers will be putting up equal to better numbers.
I would argue
that's devil's advocate. I don't agree
and I respect your devil's advocate play there, but I would argue the exact opposite. When the Eagles have such a good offensive line, which they do, and you have a second string coming in, you're going to run the ball. And you have Miles Sanders, who's a very serviceable running back, and you have the best offensive line. You're going to be running the ball more. So I would say, if anything, start
remember
Miles
what I said
Sanders.
about respect? You guys being a respectful commentator. Do you guys realize when we're talking about this? I think that really made a really great point. Last week against the Chicago Bears, their game plan was to throw the ball more. They didn't run the ball until midway through.
Yeah, because the Bears secondary is terrible.
The Cowboys secondary is coming off getting shredded by Jacksonville. They allowed.
Don't you think that was a fluke game? Don't you think that was a fluke?
No, they allowed 40 points.
Okay.
Trevor Lawrence scored all over them. They couldn't stop them at all in the second half. They benched one of their starting quarterbacks. They're dinged up in the secondary and missing 2 starters.
Or cornerbacks?
Cornerbacks.
Quarterbacks play offense. Cornerbacks play defense, just in case.
All right. That wasn't a good example of respect, Rahul. I think we need to.
Is that if Zay Jones can go for a fantasy, he led the entire league in fantasy scoring last week. #2 receiver on his team, Jacksonville. They scored 40 points. Same matchup. What makes you think DeVonta Smith playing for a better team? I'd argue that Gardner Minshew is not much worse than Trevor Lawrence. I'd argue that he's going to have just as good a game. I expect a big showing out of him this week. I expect you guys to be all in my head about this. And I was right. But I think it's time for me to get to my sit-up.
Yeah, please.
My sit-up for this week is going to be Justin Fields. While Justin Fields is a top.
Oh my God.
and while Justin Fields is a top quarterback, I did that just because Rahul would get mad at me, yes.
Because I said sit David Montgomery.
Yeah, I think that the Bears are going to get shredded this week by the Bills. I think they're going to get locked up. I think that Justin Fields is going to be played in around 5-degree weather Fields is going to struggle. His hands are going to get
No,
really
but
cold.
But the air is thinner, and he's gonna slice through it.
His hands are.
All right,
I mean,
okay,
his
let's
hands
get
are
to the
so
real.
hard to hold the ball, and it's hard
So
to do a
he's
lot
gonna-
of things.
He's gonna be running, and he's just
He's
gonna
gonna
drop
be like,
it.
have you?
Okay, you're gonna be. Are you gonna give actual takes because you're muted right now? Okay, so let's not talk about the weather anymore. I think we established the air will be thinner and it will be colder. So
Stop
right, next.
laughing.
I'm sorry. It's true.
Anyways, I think it's time for us to get to the next agenda thing. I know that my takes were a little bold, but you go bigger, but you go home.
It's
You go
actually
bigger,
the
you go
next
home.
thing on the agenda. You said the next agenda on the thing.
I think that there's, I think another idea besides.
Thank you. That was Rahul who muted actually. So thank you, Rahul. I respect. Okay, so guys, I really appreciate your takes here. I think there might have been a little more arguing this time than last time, but I appreciate the passion. That kind of passion isn't shown in all the latest with Lily guests. And this right here is why you guys won. Okay, I may not like it, the audience may not like it, but our viewers liked it. And you know what? That our at-home viewers liked it, and that's what really counts at the end of the day. So before I let you guys go, is there anything else you want to say quickly?
I'll say this is the best weekend of sports that I've ever witnessed in my entire life.
I'm gonna use that for last minute with Lily. That was pretty not respectful.
I think that was a very nice comment by Rahul. I agree. I think that this was an amazing weekend of sports, and I think that a sport like soccer, which is really a very boring.
They're about to give away my last minute with Lily stuff, so I think it's time to say goodbye to Zach and Rahul. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. So, all right, yeah, there's not much more to say on that. Okay, bye. All right, so I think that went really well with them. You can argue that it went really poorly as well, but I like to see the best in things. So I would really appreciate if our audience could be silent for the rest of the show. Thank you. Okay. All right. So, I'm feeling a little defeated right now, but I'm going to launch into last minute with Lily. But it's more just like last 30 seconds with Lily because I spent the majority of the time prepping the actual show this week. So I just have 3 quality jokes for you guys. Okay. So I'm going to start my timer and we'll see how long it actually takes. I think it may be under a minute. Okay. All right. Ready? And go. Okay. A Chiefs fan robbed a bank in a Chiefs mask, then arrived at the game in said mask. I guess that's what happened when the tickets at Arrowhead get too expensive. Matt Ryan was benched by the Colts after blowing the biggest lead in NFL history. At least he's consistent. Shout out to Ella Scandura for that joke. She really came through with that one. All right. This was truly the greatest weekend in sports for obvious reasons. I mean, the Steelers won, but no. Yes, Argentina won the World Cup. And you may have noticed that I decided not to talk about soccer at all. And that's because I do not think soccer is a cool sport. The World Cup was kind of exciting, but overall, I think it was mostly boring. All right. And on that note, I think we're going to end this show. It was a little chaotic, but I really appreciate you guys watching the show. Yeah, Zach.
I think that in addition to respect, we need to focus on. I think that being nice to each other is something that in this modern day of age we've sort of forgotten about. And so, people are laughing right now as I say that.
All right, I gotta end this.
Disrespect for soccer fans is really remarkable. So thank you all for watching. Lance with Lily, it's been an amazing moment in my life. It's changed it all.
Rule, you want to get in here? All right. Thank you guys. All right. Bye.